Hello, Andrew Bell, AbleSim here, and in this short video clip we're going to look at the analysis section for a Master's Dissertation. Analysis of results. Now that could be interviews or questionnaires, or it could be case studies. So I'm going to approach this video in two parts. First of all, I'm going to look at questionnaires and interviews, how we're going to analyse those, some suggestions, and then we'll look at some suggestions for case studies. So firstly, questionnaires or interviews. Okay, I've got a 5-step process for you here. Step 1, state the overall results. How many interviews did you do? How many questionnaires were issued? How many questionnaires were returned? Bring the reader into this as an overall introduction to the analysis chapter. Give them some understanding of who was approached for interview and how many you've done. Then secondly, we can start to state the individual results. Now, you might want to refer the reader back to why this question was asked. So if question 1 is about the male-female split of users or operators or whatever it might be, you might want to point out why this is an important question to ask. Remember, you're asking these questions for a reason. And the reason is that it was a genuine question to ask because it was raised from the literature review. So as you state the individual questions, just remind the reader why this question is being asked, where it's come from. So you'll be stating the verbatim responses from the interviews, or just stating the question and the overall results from the questionnaires. Step 3, you might now want to comment on that data. Again, some reference back to the literature review on, is this in line with our expectations, or have you found some sort of anomaly here? I want you to comment on the data, but not analyse it or discuss it. So fourthly, we're going to analyse the data. Now, if it's questionnaires, I want primary analysis, and then I want secondary analysis. And I've got an example of this coming up. A primary analysis of each question might break it down into the percentages that say yes or no, or it might be a table or a graph of results or a pie chart. But a secondary analysis is an analysis between the questions. Finally, the 5th step is to discuss the results, or perhaps point out where you're going to discuss it later in your discussion chapter. So pick out the points that need further discussion. So as an example, I'm going to use a simple questionnaire that's looking at whether people smoke or don't smoke. We may have issued 100 questionnaires. We may have only got 50 back. Why was that? So that might be something that we want to comment on. Question 1 might ask whether the person questionnaire is a female or a male. We might state that there were 80 females and 20 males of returned questionnaires. Question 2 might be looking at their age range. Are they 16 to 20? Are they 21 to 30? Are they 31 to 40? So we're just stating the primary analysis of how many of those results have come in each category. But the secondary analysis will look at how many females are between 16 and 20. It might be, for instance, that 100% of those females are in that young age category. And this gives us something to discuss later. Question 3 might be, how many cigarettes do you smoke? Is it 1 a day? Is it 2 to 4 a day? Is it 5 to 10 a day? And we can analyse those results. We can provide some sort of graph or chart, but it might lead us to the question, well, what is a smoker? If I smoke 1 a day, does that make me a smoker? If I smoke 1 a week, does that make me a smoker? In the eyes of some insurance agencies, one a year is enough to categorise you as a smoker. Okay, so 5 steps to look at your questionnaires and interview data. State the overall results, state the individual results, comment on the data, analyse the data, bring out what you need to discuss later. So secondly, we're going to look at what you can do with case studies. A lot of my students do secondary data collection using case studies. How do they present this in their master's dissertation? Sometimes these case studies can be quite long. So I recommend you put them in the appendix in full, even if it's 20 or 30 pages. The reader might want access to them. So you can put a large case study into the appendix. Don't try and put a full case study into the middle of your chapter on data analysis. The next thing you might need to do is introduce the case study. Give me some background to the company involved or the situation. How old is it? What's the company? What was the country it was performed in? It's information that you can add to the case study to make it more real. Now, third step, I suggest you précis the case study in your own words. And this might take 2, 3, 4 pages of the dissertation for each case study. You're writing it in your own words. You can put an overall comment at the beginning that the full case study is shown in the appendix. You won't have to put references or citations in this as long as it's clear that you are précising it. So fourthly, you want to comment on the case study with reference to the literature review. Those theories and definitions and practices and methodologies that you examined in the literature review, you might want to comment, were they used in the case study? Were they not used in the case study? Was the case study successful? Was the case study a failure? And you want to repeat that for each case study. If you're doing case study analysis for your dissertation, you've got nothing to compare with if you've just got one case study. So you're probably going to have 2, 3 or 4 case studies so you can start to compare them. So repeat this process, introduce the case study, give me some background, précis it and make some comments. And then the final step here will be to state the similarities and the differences between the case studies. So these are the pointers that are going to go in for your later discussion. So for case studies, 5 steps. Put the full case study in the appendix. Give me some introduction and background to the case study before you précis the case study. Then you might want to raise some comments about the case study with reference to the literature review. And then you want to look at the similarities and the differences between the case studies. So a very quick look at what you can put in this analysis chapter for questionnaires, interviews, or for case studies. I hope you found it useful. Thank you.